Ready to go? All right, we will call the meeting to order. Jen, would you take roll, please?
Commissioner Corbin.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Waldner. Commissioner Thel.
Here.
Mayor Lindsay.
Here. You have before you the agenda for this evening.
There are no additions or deletions, corrections?
Not to
To
my
approve the
knowledge.
agenda?
I make a motion we approve agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Under appearances, acknowledgements, and Mr. Corbin, just for your information, Mr. Waldner has arrived. Okay. We have Brenda Strong from the Madison Housing and Redevelopment Commission. And if you would come to the microphone so that people who listen to the recording at home can hear the conversations. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me come and speak with you all tonight. As the mayor said, my name is Brenda Strum, and I'm with the Madison Housing Redevelopment Commission. I am here today to bridge the gap that we have between the Madison Housing and the city of Madison. We have some things coming up in the future that we are looking at doing, and it's very important that we get this gap between us fixed and figure out where Madison Housing fits within the city of Madison. We kind of feel that we are out left in the cold all by ourselves, and we need to find where we fit, and especially it's important for the future of Madison Housing. I was asked to give a little bit of history of Madison Housing. Madison Housing is made up of two different things. We have public housing, which is the Lakeview Tower, which consists of 94 units, 12-story high-rise building. You're all familiar with the Lakeview Tower. We also have this, the Section 8 voucher program, which we have 111 vouchers, which we can use within Lake and Minor County. Those are two counties that we cover for the voucher program. Currently, as of July 1st, we are serving 109 families on the voucher program, and on average, between January and July, on average, we spend about $36,500 on rents and utilities every month to help these families with low income and the utilities. So that's just a little bit of what we are right now. In 1968, the city of Madison felt that there was inadequate and unsafe housing here in Madison and felt a need that something needed to be done. So with the city commissioners at that time came up with the Madison Housing and Redevelopment Commission through the Municipal Housing and Redevelopment Act of the state of South Dakota. And through that, original members of the Housing Authority were elected. And as you can see on the form that I handed out, Dr. Freitag, Howard Carlson, Mrs. Richler, John Lang, and Dr. Stanford were the original commissioners of the Madison Housing and Redevelopment Commission in 1968. That was on February 21st. Also on February 21st, 1968, the commission also came up with resolutions, I guess 1239 and 1240, which involved creating the housing authority. So we are involved or in with the city commission in their resolutions. That's how we were created. Also goes on there in April 28th, 1969, the board picked the Lovering Construction Company in St. Paul to develop the Lakeview Tower. It cost about $1.4 million to build it back in 1969. It was completed in January 71, and October 15th, 1971, the project was 100% occupied. So that's just a little bit of the history of how the Housing Authority came about. Again, as we come into housing shortage back then, and this looks like Madison is facing it currently right now. So a lot of people wonder, how does Madison Housing get their funding? I don't think a lot of people realize that we get our funding from the transportation bill. Transportation bill has a lot of things that it funds underneath it. You got the Tiger grants, which is also known as our national infrastructure. We have our highways, our FAA, our railroads, our transits, our maritime administration, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. They get $869 million to work with vehicle recalls and the pipelines. But down second from the bottom of that list is all of the Section 8 and public housing authorities. We are very low funded. Right now, HUD is $26 billion behind in capital funds work orders for public housing. So that is the two entities of how Madison gets, the two entities that Madison gets their funding is through operation funds, which we get from HUD, and that is to pay our daily bills, our day-to-day operations, payroll, and anything that comes up. Then every year we get capital funds. Our capital funds are to be used by HUD-approved projects. An example would be our new front doors that we put on the high-rise. We fixed one stack of plumbing a couple years ago. Anything that has been approved by HUD that the executive director sends to HUD, to them saying this is what we need done. That's like this year we got $76,000 to fix repairs at the Lakeview Tower. That is where I was talking about that HUD is behind $26 billion. That is across the country of all the backlogs of things that need to be done. Because currently the Lakeview Tower needs to fix 2 more stacks of plumbing, which is about $750,000 to fix. We need a new roof. Our computer board for the elevator is starting to go, and it is very important that our elevator is to the Lakeview Tower, because without that elevator, some of our fire department, especially our ambulance, would not be able to get up to some of those floors to get some of our tenants out. We also have asbestos in our hallways that needs to be removed. So those are just 4 of the major things that need to be done. As you can see, it's a pretty penny that we need to at least get those 4 things done. And there's also just minor things that attribute to our showers are starting to leak, our RO systems, and our patio doors are starting to leak also.
RO means?
That reverse osmosis.
Okay.
Each apartment has reverse osmosis in the kitchen sink. So what is the future of Madison housing or public housing? Public housing is almost going to be a dying fade. Every year, about on average 10,000 public housing units are lost because of either they don't have the money to fix them, they are just demolished because they are beyond repair. So in order to avoid getting down that road where eventually that our repairs are going to be beyond fixable, we need to do something now. So we are looking at RAD. What is RAD? HUD is very keen on acronyms. Everything is 3-letter words. But RAD is a rental assistance demonstration, which is a new program from HUD, and it is volunteer. Currently, they have fixed 160,000 units right now, and currently 20,000 are to be done within the year. Mitchell Housing right now is going through RAD demonstration. They get $7 million to redo their public housing structure. What RAD does is it takes public housing out of public housing and go into a more stable funding source, as like our voucher program. It would become a project-based voucher program. So it would be more stable. We have more sources of funding where we can go out and get tax credits. Tax credits are huge for any city. Currently, Madison does not have any tax credits going on in it. So we are going to be looking at tax credits, going for the 9% and 4% tax credits. Also other private funding. Right now, public housing, you cannot go out and get private funding to fix that. You just have to, you are stuck with whatever HUD gives you. So with that, with us going in the future of RAD, we really need to bridge this, like I said, this gap between Madison housing and the city of Madison and find out where we really fit. So when we go forward with this RAD, because we'll be coming to you guys, letting you know this is what we need, because we will need your support to go forward with this. And so, again, that's why I'm coming to you now as we slowly move forward. I have one of our board members here, Gene Stemper. Also, we have Marie Lostand, Tim Walber, Tom Bernard and Scott Johnson, which is our board chair right now, currently serving on Madison Housing Redevelopment Commission. So, is there any questions? I know I went too fast, I ran out of time, so.
Again, this is something that has been kind of an ongoing thing of where do they fit and how do they fit. And
Right, and we're not
So-
asking for money.
No,
You know,
no.
at all, so.
And so, after having spent some time with David and then with the accountants that have been here and that, I asked Brenda to come and give the commission, an update of where we are. And we've gone back and found the passages in that she refers to where the city did establish this. And we still have questions in that as to how it fits within a city. It doesn't fit, it's not like our electric department or our utilities department where they are actually, governed, but they are a part of the city from the standpoint that if they were to go out to borrow money, we have to approve it. The other thing is if they are unable to meet their financial obligations on something that we have approved, then the city does have a liability to pick up that slack. So it's still a learning process, and so at this point in time and that, I want to thank Brenda for coming and beginning the process of explaining where they came from and where they hope to go from here. And, down the road in that, as she comes along and talks about doing these things, then you'll explain, how you're plan on funding it and how it's to be paid back and those kind of things.
Currently, I put out for a request for qualifications for a developer. I have one back. We'll take it to my next board meeting, which is next Monday, for my board to approve on that developer. Once we have that, then we will be moving forward, as long as I have approval on with this RAD program, to fill out applications, starting with, meetings with the tenants, letting them know this is where we're going. We'll be coming, developer will be coming here, talking to, you guys and letting you know what needs to be done, because all those meetings have to be done first before we can go forward, especially with our application into HUD for this, to make sure that everyone is aware of where we're going with the Lakeview Tower, so.
And so,
Can you explain a little more about this RAD? I mean,
Yeah.
if Metro got 7 million, we could go a long ways with 3.
Right, it
4.
depends,
Or
on
seven.
what is,
Or 7. 7 would be okay too.
what
live with
happened with that is, so the developer came into Mitchell and assessed what their needs were, so that's what will happen here. The developer will come to Madison, we'll walk through the Lakeview Tower, and we're like, okay, so we need a new roof, we need.
You need 1.3, 1 point,
Right,
let's
so
just say
those are the-
1.5 million.
Right, so those things, so then we're gonna look at, so we had the housing study done last year, I worked with the LAIC on that, which is a first step to move forward with this too. We're gonna look at, what does Madison need, or do we are we efficient enough with where we sit in our efficiency apartments, our 1 bedrooms? We only have 3 2-bedrooms there. Do we need to develop more? So we're gonna look at, what we really need to do to obviously benefit Lakeview Tower and also for the city of Madison, where everything sits. Because there is a shortage, a housing shortage in Madison currently.
We know that from the survey and stuff. And-
Yeah.
Okay, so
So they'll come and assess what we need, and then they'll go from there to find out our dollars, and then we have to apply to the state of South Dakota for any tax credits. So then it depends on how many tax credits you get from the state of South Dakota on how much money you get.
What determines a tax credit?
Tax credits are where you will, we get so many tax credits. And so tax credits, you have these individual investors from wherever. So what they get in return for investing, if you will, into like the Lakeview Tower or in Mitchell or wherever tax credits are. So when they're doing their taxes, they have their taxes, they go all the way through, then it comes to the bottom dollar. They get these tax credits off that bottom dollar of what they owe.
So the tax credits go to the investors on the property.
Tax credits go to the investors, yes.
investor slash developer,
The-
because you
the
can't
syndicate is-
take private money.
Not right now, not as long as we're in public housing, but once we apply for RAD, we get approved from HUD to go into RAD, then we can get this private funding, yes.
Is there a
Okay.
risk in doing that? So then you can't receive any HUD money then
We
after
will
that?
get HUD money because we'll be more like a project-based voucher program. So right now, the voucher program is if the voucher goes with the person to wherever they go within Lake and Minor
Sure.
County. Project-based is the assistance is within the building. So the assistance stays in the building, and so the project-based voucher program is a more stable program. So right now, we get our operating money in the lump sum, if you will. It depends on each month, each year what we get from them. Capital funds, again, never know year to year how much we're going to get. But with project-based, you're gonna know what you get every month from them, just like I know what I'm gonna get every month from HUD for the voucher program, the tenant-based. So,
So right now, under HUD, you get your vouchers based on another system.
yep, so we have
Other
the
than
two,
you would
yes.
under.
We have
RAD.
our
I think
6-day
Mike's
voucher
question is,
program.
what is our greatest advantage and what is our greatest risk
Risk.
in making that change? Well, can I go back to something that you said in the beginning? I think I can.
Yes, absolutely.
You said there's been kind of a gap, you're trying to bridge a gap, and you started your dissertation or your statements. And
Yes.
Is it just because it's been so long unaddressed?
I think so. I think when this first started, the name of it was the Madison Housing Redevelopment Commission of the City of Madison. That was the name of it. And then I think as the years went on, this of the City of Madison got dropped. 'Cause they used to hold their meetings here at City Hall, or wherever City Hall was in 1960. Sorry, I don't know.
It was still here.
Okay.
We should have that if you
Yeah.
know the guests were around.
So, they used to
Find
hold them
Waldo.
here, and they used to have to submit all of their meetings notes to the city commission.
Mhm.
This is the book that I found that has, the originals of the first resolutions for the housing authority and things like that. So they used to have to turn all that, and then as the years went on, I'm not quite sure where that all dropped off. And then I think as the housing board went out and got a private
Manager.
management company to manage the housing authority, then I think too that it got lost. I just think that the housing
Kind of that, took on
authority
that
got
privatized
lost.
feel to it, and as a
It
result
did.
of that, lost some of its public sector
Yes, yeah,
sensation.
yeah.
But I do have to say, that every month, and that the mayor does get the monthly
And
reports.
I'm not questioning your.
You know,
veracity of your
so-
statement.
so that is
I just think
something-
it's important for us to know
Yeah.
where we've been and where we're going.
And I agree,
Mhm.
and that's
Mhm.
part of, figuring out, what
Yeah.
happened and where we are, so we can just move forward on with it,
Mhm.
figure out where we fit in. Because, there are other housing authorities in South Dakota who, their offices are right in City Hall. They go to their city commissions, they have to do the same thing that MHRC used to have to do in the past, that they are currently doing now, so.
See, and one of the confusing things when I came on is Scott came to me and said, we need to appoint a board member, and my question was, well, what authorities do we have? Well, the mayor appoints the board and then they operate. And so-
You're supposed to appoint the board, and the city commissioners are supposed to approve it.
Approve it, right. And so we did that, and I didn't go any further, And then Brenda started asking some questions and saying, these are some things we have to do. And so then we've been going through the research, and then Jerry Lammers, who was a part of the original starting of this, he sent a letter, pointing out, that the city started this, the city has to be be responsible. And they had a private management company up until a couple years ago.
About 2.5 years ago.
And then the board decided that they were going to pull it in-house and operate it, with the board themselves and, direct the way, the monies were being spent and so forth. And so that's what's been happening. And so for me, it's still a learning process.
And that's how it was originally done. When the board, when Madison Housing was was created, they had the board, they had an executive director that the board oversaw it. So just as it is now is how it was done in the beginning.
Mhm.
So,
Similar to the airport, where we have our airport board and then we have no say over anything.
Well, I would actually suggest to you that this board is even more so than the airport.
Yeah.
With HUD involved, we actually have very little to say
Yeah.
about this particular board. We are to approve members, and we are to approve general finances and budget. But beyond that, we have very little statutory control. Statutes have evolved over the years and has really put these sorts of boards out on an island, for better or for worse. But we don't have a lot of say or control over it, other than approving the appointment of board members. And we are supposed to oversee generally the finances and the budget. But that's about it. Most of the property that the board owns is in the board's name, it's not in the city's name. Some of it is, some of it may be
It
the
says,
city.
Yeah,
the deed
it's-
says,
it's-
and
yeah,
it has
city's name.
both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some may.
Yeah.
So
Well-
on the budget side then,
We do I do the budgets.
you
in
send the
October.
reports to the mayor and the mayor, then we don't have to like formally approve them? Or
We sure could.
I would rather not if we didn't have to.
I guess the question, Mike, with the ties to that is,
I'm just worried about liability and.
yeah, and if we're tied in now at some level now, obviously you're proposing that we be tied in at a more significant level, and I'm not sure that's it, I'm not opposing that, okay, but I just think we need to know
And
what our
Kelly?
liabilities are, and what that means for us as a community. I mean, right now, if abandoned Lakeview Towers, what would our liability be?
Ours.
Exactly.
That's
You know,
according to
and then
our-
if we
to
enter
the
into
state
another type
auditor,
of funding
it's
source or
ours.
agreement, what would whose liability would it be?
Or
Ours.
somebody goes.
When you
So
say
something-
liability, do you mean who would own it?
Oh, who would own it? Who take care, you know, we're sitting there with a massive structure that's, can't be used.
Right, and
You know,
then
whose
that's what
responsibility is
we are
it?
trying to avoid. In
Mhm.
public housing, I believe, and a lot of people believe in the next 5, possibly 10 years, it's gonna go away. Because there's just not enough funding for it. And it's just every year, it's less and less and less. So more and more housing authorities, you know, so I said 160,000 units, that's, you know, individual apartments that have been converted into that. So we just have, you know, 94 to add to that. The president wants to, you know, they didn't think Bragg was gonna be as big as it is. So they only opened it up to 180,000 units. So in 2017, Congress was allowing, you know, 225,000 units. The president wants to open it up to whoever because they know just where it's going. So that is coming, to open it up to everybody. So there's a slight little wait list, that's why I'm kind of, like, I'm here, we're doing this because we need to get our,
Would the cost of income or cost of housing be then proportional in that scenario with the president? Would it be a proportional
everything
based
is
to
the
income?
same. So right now, for the voucher program, public housing, rents is figured on 30% of their adjusted income. So that would stay exactly the same. So there would be no, the only problem to our tenants would be is if we have to relocate them, but that would be figured into all the money, relocating them, depending on what needs to be done. I a little bit speaking out of turn here, I'm just
No,
gonna assume that
yeah.
we're, you know, we have to.
Yeah, and we're gonna fix the facility, just that particular piece of housing, we're gonna fix it up as is?
Right.
Or are we looking down the road to say, there may be some families moving in here, and we need 2 or 3 bedroom
Right,
units in the
right.
facility?
So we gotta look at
And the way we do business.
what we need, because right now where it sits, you know, it's, something major is going to happen over there, either as last fall when we had that flood issue, it's either gonna get worse, it is getting worse, something major is gonna happen, our roof is gonna fall off, it's ready to now, the elevator's gonna go down, we're just trying to, you know, cause we have
Well,
one
that's
big
okay,
elevator.
as long as it goes back up.
We have one big
Yeah.
elevator and just one small one, so the small one, there's no way you can put a gurney in there, and you fit, you know, so, just trying to stay ahead, you know, now, today, their generator is not happy in.
How, so there are 90 units
94,
94 units, are they, generally, are you full?
yes. I would say our occupancy rate is about 90, 95%.
Okay. So if we couldn't use that facility, from stem to stern, so to speak, we'd have that many people to find housing for in our community.
Correct. And you'd figure it out, most of them are low income,
Mhm.
so you'd have to find some low income housing for them, and, you know, if HUD's not making or giving any more vouchers out, what you have is what you have. So if we only have 111 vouchers for Lake and Minor County, and we use 109, so I spent about, on average, 36,000 a month. HUD gives about 32,000, so I have to dip out of reserve. So rents are going up, so are utilities. So I'm spending more than what I'm getting from HUD, and so that's why I'm only at 109, and we have 111. I can't use all of the vouchers right now because I spent too much money. So,
And the other voucher-based, or I should say income-based units in the community,
yes.
which are not related in any way to you?
No, a lot of most of those in town here are multifamily, but the rents are figured the same. That's the one common denominator that we have, but they are a different income, low income source. So you have your multifamily, you have public housing, and you have your voucher program.
One of the reference you made was the study that was done a while back, which I thought was good and gave us a good picture of what was going on. We're, I don't know, woefully would be the right word, but we are in need of more assistance in housing.
Yes.
And we knew we've seen some projects come forth, you know, that, to meet some of that need, but they're necessarily income-based or for folks. So what you bring before us addresses an economic stratus in itself, maybe unemployed or disabled, or folks that are in need of some kind of assistance.
We are, the Lakeview County is very, very diversified. We have, you know, your elderly, we have families, we have people with developmental disabilities in there, we have students from DSU in there, singles, you name it, we have it in there. So we cover a wide variety of housing needs for
You do.
Madison
Yes, you
in
do.
there,
Yeah.
yes. So.
There's some students from the university have lived there in the past, you know, so it is quite it's a community on itself in some ways.
DSU is, until they get their housing figured out, they run out, and so I give it about another week, we're gonna be very busy on the phone, our applications will be flying in, because we realize there's no more room at the inn up there at DSU, so they're gonna be frantically trying to find places, you know, not just with us, just everywhere here in Madison. It happened last year, with, you know, parents panicking because they cannot find a place for their child to stay for the school year.
I'm sorry, excuse me.
No, I was just gonna say, you know, we have coaches and stuff calling us and things, you know, do you have room for this athlete, this, they're coming in from, you know, they recruit all over, and
The figures you gave us, it looks like about $1,250,000 worth of river. Are those fine-tuned in any sense, or those kind of, giving us
the
a
figure
general
I
sense
got
of?
from the plumbing is what our plumbing is done in stacks. So we have like our apartments are A, B, C, D, E, and F, so we did one stack already. And I got this number because I looked at how much it cost for that one stack and just figured out to do two more. So that's why I got that number. Our new roof, that's what it's going to cost. We already have bids in for that. Computer board, we have it, maintenance guy comes every month to check it out, Schumacher's elevator. I asked him, that's how much about that would cost, and our asbestos, that is to remove it off on all 12 floors.
What do you see as the time frame that you're looking at on doing these?
Once the board approves for the developer, and then him or they, or whoever will come to Madison, and we will do our assessment on the Lakeview Tower, and then we will get our application into HUD, and so I'm hoping to say, next year, to start something, with it, get everything approved, and get all our meetings done and everything, and, go forward.
The next year meeting January 1 or July 1?
No, probably next summer.
And then the funding source to repay these is from the income from the RAD? Is that?
Yep, your income, and then you also have your rental income too.
Mhm.
So, every month we just, take in our rental and they say, try to, if you want to live off of just your rental income and try not to use your operating money from HUD because
You
it's
don't know where that's going.
eventually gonna run away, so
Okay.
that's what we do. And it's done very well so far too. Haven't had to dip in it too much.
Okay, so you see this as, even though this is expenses, you see the ability to pay it back as well?
I do, yes.
Okay,
Because
okay.
there's a lot, besides you get your tax credits, you have your home funds that's another program from South Dakota Housing. There are, your utility companies that have other programs I think we can dip into to do that. So there are a lot of sources of funding out there, but we just can't do it right now as long as we are public housing entity.
I'd have to ask you when you say utility companies that we could dip into,
I was talking like Heartland, I know
Okay,
they
other
have
two
programs,
assistants.
yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another utility
I'm
company
sorry
in
if
town.
I
No,
didn't
that's
say that.
just being sensitive to
No,
Commissioner
just
Corbin.
clarification.
Commissioner-
Commissioner Corbin, did you have a questions?
Did she say that you get the minutes from their meetings?
I do, and I have a file of those, and so you're more than welcome to read any month or however many months you want to read.
Any thought to just putting them in the agenda packet once a month in the consent calendar, then we could all take a look at them?
They are, I'm going to say, approximately 100 pages in length each month. Each month.
It depends on what's going on that month, it's like a millet phone, so you can.
Well, maybe I'll just stop and flip through.
Yes,
You
absolutely,
definitely have
absolutely.
minutes. The minutes are always in.
The minutes are easy, but the packet that I receive in the mayor's office is thick.
I wouldn't mind seeing the minutes every month, though.
Yeah,
Just
maybe
Yeah,
that's-
that might be
Okay.
helpful.
something goes
Yeah.
down, we could,
And then we can reference back to it.
prepare for it, if you will. I guess the whole commission's the governing body, so
Okay.
if we ever needed to do something, it'd be kind of nice to get coming.
Brenda's shaking her head yes, and so
Yes.
I'm assuming that would be no problem.
So, if you want more than what I give to you, I can take them to you, but that's not a problem. That's what they used to do in the past. They submitted their notes or their minutes to the commissioners, and not only did the board have to approve the minutes, also the commissioners approved the minutes when it was first originally. They used to meet twice a month here at City Hall. So,
Okay.
I think your comment was interesting about there are more and more people going into assisted housing or public housing of some sort at
Yeah.
the national level.
yes, because
Is interesting.
when I first started, about 10 years ago, you'd see a lot of, people were staying longer not as long on the farm, just going from there to the nursing home. But now they are staying longer, if you will, on the farm and going from their home into an apartment and then hopefully not, but just, so that's slowly the trend because people are living longer.
Yeah.
So we're healthier.
Yeah,
So,
I suppose getting an endorsement for a Trump Tower thing would.
Give it a shot.
No. Thank you, Brenda.
Any other questions or comments? Well, again, I want to thank you for coming and enlightening us on the history of it, and also, where we fit into the decision-making scheme, of what needs to be done on a monthly basis. And I know that there's going to be a lot more questions, but that's good, because it's a learning process. And when we've moved away from, they farmed it out to professional company and they operated it, and everything ran fine for years, and the commission just kind of, was, out of the picture pretty much. So it's good to know, where we are and understand, what roles we have to play, in the future here and moving forward. So,
Thank you.
I
Help.
appreciate
Thank
it
you.
very much.
Thank you.
thank you.
Right.
Okay. With that, I'm going to jump down to old business. We have here a 5:35 hearing on the sidewalk improvement and repair assessment rolls. In here, it was 5:35 or as soon thereafter. And Chad, did you want to address this?
I didn't have anything to add to the hearing. I filed the assessment rolls with Jen. Let me look at the date, June 17th, and then from there Jen kind of takes over, so maybe.
Jen, did you have
Sure,
anything to add to this?
So then, as of July 5th, we adopted 2 resolutions to direct the preparation, filing, and setting of a public hearing. Tonight is that public hearing. It is now our opportunity to listen to any comments or
Okay.
anyone who wants to speak to the adopting the assessment rule and levying these assessments, which is our next step following the hearing.
Is there anyone from the audience that's here that would like to address the assessment rolls?
I've got a couple questions on it.
Okay, sir, if you would step up to the mic here, please identify yourself and that, and then go ahead.
Eric Ostis.
Okay?
I received one of your letters on the, well, a week ago Friday,
Okay?
with the assessment and a filing lien on the property. We purchased the property October 29th of last year. The sidewalk was already in. It was a state property, the Haberger residence, it was Joe Haberger's old place.
Okay?
Now I get a bill for a sidewalk that had already been put in. So we need to figure out what the resolution's gonna be on that sidewalk.
Okay, at this point in time, and that I don't have an answer for you. It is something that probably should have been disclosed during the sale of the property, that the sidewalk was put in and was not paid for, and should have been part of the negotiated agreement.
It was actually supposed to be filed with the courthouse, with the abstract, the title. And the city did not file any dollar amounts to them, so they could not put any dollar amounts to it. We've got the realtors and they're involved on it, and a real estate attorney right now too. And I brought my purchase agreement, which specifically states that any assessments prior to or unknown are responsibility of the seller. This is a unique case. The seller is an estate, which the estate is now closed.
Okay? David, do you have anything to
Well, I mean,
add to this? 'Cause-
estates can be reopened, but that's not our business, that's
Yeah.
the aggrieved person's business. I guess there's been the statement that it wasn't filed at the courthouse, but it sure sounds like it was. Sounds like there was something filed
There
at
was
the
something
courthouse.
filed there, from what I understand. I don't know, I have not seen the record myself.
Okay.
So as long as the city made its filing, we complied with our responsibility. If someone else didn't get enough information or understand what it was, that's not the city's role. The city's role is to note it, so it does turn up on title searches before closings, and it sounds like that did happen.
Well, according to the title company, it did not.
Okay.
We're getting from the-
You know, I really appreciate you coming in, but because this is legal in nature, I don't know that we have an answer for you this evening. And that, I guess I would, encourage you to pursue further to see, if it became your responsibility or if it became the responsibility of the estate and that. But at this point in time, I don't know that we have an answer for you. But I do appreciate you coming in and pointing that out.
Yeah, because these, I guess I'm just trying to figure out why it takes a year to get these assessment letters. sent out.
That's standard procedure because, the sidewalk has to be installed and then we have to go through the processes of, getting the costs from the developer. And then it has to go through the standard, financing steps and that, and then it gets put onto the rolls and that for the next tax year. It's the same as property tax. You don't pay it this year or this year. You pay this year's taxes next year. This follows pretty much the same process.
I understand that.
So-
We should probably have a little bit more than a 2-week lead time on these letters. When I get a letter in the mail stating that there's gonna be a lien filed
just give us a call at our office, and we'll
We've
continue to
done
work through
full-
the process.
Yeah, we've done the checks. In fact, I've had the guys call in your office. I think I talked to you,
Yep.
Chad.
Okay.
I tried to get hold of you. So, Adam Folden, I know, has been in contact
Okay.
with title companies, courthouse, I think even the city. I don't know if he's talked to you or not.
Not Adam. I talked to Mr. Ostis as well,
Yeah.
and kind of walked through the process as you briefly tried to describe it, Mayor, and such. There was several other properties that were caught in this sale. Some were actually foreclosures, which add challenges, but a year ago or so, we had some challenges, and we made sure we filed it this time, and that, I believe that's not even required by statute, but we do it as a courtesy to try to let these things get caught in these processes. And I did talk to the title company a little bit today. She was gonna do some checking, because I'm more curious than anything, because I wanna make sure we're doing what we can to keep this type of thing from happening,
And we're filing them for a reason, for this reason. We're filing them for
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure there's not going to be a move with this process.
My understanding of the process is, I think you have 30 days from these resolutions that are upcoming to pay. I mean, that could still happen before
Without
it.
interest, tonight, after we go through the hearing process, the group will approve the next two resolutions, which will still give you, or whoever is deemed the property owner, until August 24th to pay this interest-free.
Okay,
Okay?
okay. I guess in the meantime, we'll just do our due diligence on it.
Okay.
All right?
Yes, thank you for coming in.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else that has any questions on, or comments and that on the hearing on the sidewalk improvement repair assessment rolls? Hey, if not, do we have a motion?
No motion necessary if you would just move on.
All right,
to
we'll
the
just move on down
resolution.
to new business. We'll go to resolution. Did you have
Or do
something?
you want to go back to the consent calendar?
Oh, yes, thank you. Is there anything you want removed from the consent calendar?
Make a motion, we approve the consent calendar.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Under new business, resolution 2016-19, adopt the assessment roll and levy assessments for sidewalk improvements 2015. Chad or Jen, do you want to address that?
I shall take that. So
Okay.
As I noted, after the hearing tonight, we have a new list too of those who have paid or a new, after the assessment roll was filed in my office, we've received numerous payments. Those will
Would you
come
bring
off
your
of
mic
that
around?
assessment roll. Therefore, the next step in the process is for you all to adopt the assessment roll and levy the assessments for the sidewalk improvement and the sidewalk improvement repair. And then all property owners are given an additional 30 days from tonight to, again, make these payments interest-free. That
Okay.
date takes you until August 24th, 5 PM in the finance office.
Okay. So on resolution 2016-19, we need a motion to adopt.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 2016-19, adopt assessment roll and levy assessments for sidewalk improvements 2015.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Resolution number 2016-20. Adopt the assessment roll and levy assessments for the sidewalk repair improvements of 2015. And Jen, same?
Same date, yep.
Yep.
Again, through August 24th, 5 PM, finance office can still pay these assessments without interest.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve resolution number 2016-20, adopt assessment roll and levy assessments for the sidewalk repair improvement 2015.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 3, consider property owner sidewalk installation extension requests for the sidewalk improvement 2016. Chad, did you want to address this?
Yes, I can say a few words. Thank you, Your Honor. The resolution that was passed in, I believe it was late 2014, early 2015, set a deadline for landowners to put in the sidewalks by July 15th. They weren't put in at that time, then the city has the authority to put them in. However, oftentimes every year, basically, there's some delays in getting those done, and so we reach out to the landowners for the new sidewalk projects only, and ask them if they want an extension request rather than just telling our contractor to give the green light. I should say as a little side note, we do have a contract with a contractor who we have to give him our list that he needs to do, which may include some of these folks who haven't completed theirs. And so that's why we keep that timeline pretty tight in there. We've received 8 requests for extensions. There's been 4 property owners that we haven't received any information on whatsoever. They haven't responded to our letters, they haven't let us know. And so, which does happen occasionally, and so we will be authorizing our contractor to proceed with those accordingly. But then, as far as these folks, I would recommend that we grant the extension to these folks until August 26th. And then also I would ask to prevent me having to come with you with any secondary, third, other people give me the authority to grant additional time or to grant additional requests who come in afterwards. Maybe they've just heard about it or something and such. I would ask you to grant that as well. Again, there's 8 requests that have been included are included in your agenda packet.
I'll make a motion that we approve the extension request for the property owner sidewalk installations for sidewalk improvement 2016. And then also, as part of that motion, to authorize Chad to use a little leeway. If it's not exactly August 26th, they just need a couple of days. Want you to make sure you're on top of it like you are.
Yep. And if there's any new requests, I would ask you that I could grant them as well.
Correct.
Okay.
Any new requests that come in from perhaps these other 4?
Correct, yeah.
Just take care of it.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Consider property owner sidewalk installation location variance requests for sidewalk improvement 2016. Chad, would you like to address this?
Yes, I can. Thank you. This is a process that's been established by the commission by resolution, Resolution 2684, for landowners to come appeal to the city commission for a variance to non-ADA standards that the city has adopted in recent years to try to have some uniformity in sidewalk installations. In this particular case, there was 2 requests for variances. Both have to do with the standard of keeping a 5-foot setback from the back of curb. That has been incorporated with significant input from the Public Works Department over time as properties change and such. Either they receive many complaints from the current, or most often not the current, but subsequent landowners, and or the sidewalks don't get cleaned more often if there's a windrow of snow laid on them. So I guess I wanted to give you a little bit of a basis for that. So the process I mentioned established in said resolution 2684 was that the landowner or their contractor can fill out a form and go see the sidewalk committee. We set a date, we met with them last week, where they would provide a recommendation to the city commission. I said there was 2 appeals. The minutes for the meeting are in here. The appeal for Mr. Ed Hansen is in the packet, and if I'll go through the minutes briefly, but there 4 of the 5 members of the sidewalk committee were present. And if we could take Mr. Hansen's first, I anticipate there'd be two motions likely. But the committee discussed the variance appeal submitted by Brian Reed on behalf of Ed Hansen of 712 North Prairie, seeking to install sidewalk at 2.5 feet from the back of the curb and gutter. City ordinance and resolution 2684 establishes a of 5 foot as the minimum unless the city commission finds that an extraordinary hardship is created. In the event the extraordinary hardship is created, the city commission may waive any and all requirements so substantial justice may be done in the public interest protection. There was a motion made by Balzer to deny the variance, and the motion died for lack of a second. There was a motion made by Wiedemann to approve the variance, and the motion died for lack of a second. The committee discussed the fact that any setback greater than 3.5 feet in this case would impact the landscaping that Mr. Hansen has. After much discussion about the importance of not basing recommendations upon landscaping, but also to minimize the impact on Mr. Hansen's trees, Knapp made a motion that the committee recommend to the city commission that the approved variance be, the referenced variance, the requested variance, be approved for 4 feet in lieu of the 2.5 feet requested. And that was seconded by Balser, and the motion carried unanimously.
And both Commissioner Corbin and I were at that meeting, and the reason for the 4 foot was not anything to do with the landscaping, but it was due to consideration that the Sidewalk Committee has always taken in reference to roots and the possibility of damage to sidewalks because of the roots. So both of us were there and that at the meeting and during the discussion. But Mr. and Mrs. Hansen are here, and that if you'd like to come up to the mic and that, the reason that we do that is because this is recorded, and then when people want to listen to it at home and that, we don't get the "we couldn't hear them" comments. So I really appreciate you taking the time to be here.
Thank you. Obviously, you know the reason why we're here.
Yes.
We have spent thousands of dollars in our yard. And there are, I don't know the exact footage, I think we could come back 3 foot from the curb and still have room for the sidewalk and not bother our curbing or our tree roots.
Mm-hmm.
I know the set out is 5 foot. We don't have 5 foot.
Well, there's 7.5 feet. Chad has a copy of the map there and that, and coming to the tree and that, the distance is what the Sidewalk Committee takes into consideration, because in the past, in that, they have never made variances for anything except the tree itself. And so there are other people who have had to relocate flower gardens. The other variance that was denied in that, they are removing a hedge. So that was part of the discussion. Mm-hmm.
But
if you go deeper into our yard, you're gonna hurt my tree roots. And if you take those 2 trees out of my yard, it's gonna wreck it.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you that there are hundreds of yards in this community that look like crap. And we have someone every week tell us how beautiful our yard is. I'm not talking the curbs. I'm talking those trees that have been there hundreds of years. And
Yes.
I don't want you to cut them down.
No, and that's why they gave the 4 foot variance, because that will take into consideration any growth of the roots and that could bother the sidewalk, and that still leaves it 3.5 feet from the tree at the 4 foot setback.
I'm not following you.
The committee, every member of the committee had gone out, had looked at it. You can see the map that's here. From the curb to the tree, it's 12 foot 8 inches. And so moving it back, the sidewalk back 4 feet from the curb, still left 3.5 feet or more from the tree to the sidewalk.
No, I was just pointing out, Mayor, Mr.
Yes.
Hansen and Ms. Hansen, the location from the back of the curb to the tree, it's about 12 feet.
So this is gonna come just ahead of the curbing.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
that-
what
that-
you requested.
But
yes.
that stake is right next to the tree.
You
I
know
mean,
where
it's
that
like
stake
a foot away from that tree. So you can't tell me you wouldn't
Well,
have
it's
to
right
cut
in
those
here
roots.
somewhere.
one, like the mayor said, if it's put in at 5 foot, which the committee didn't recommend, there'd be about 3 feet between the edge of the tree and the edge of the sidewalk. This is shown as you requested it, but if it's put in at 5 foot, you'd have about 3 feet between the tree. They didn't recommend 5 foot, they recommended 4 foot, so it would get into your nice tree right there, but it wouldn't get.
It would affect the edge of your
4 feet
landscaping,
Because
but not the tree.
That's the reason why them rocks are there to start with, was to cover the roots that were already above ground. So if you get anywhere close to that, you're going to have roots on it. You're gonna have to.
Ed, were you asking for 3.5 feet? Or were you asking for 3.5 feet or
2.5.
2.5? Oh,
Well, my son and I kind of measured it out yesterday. We think we could give 3 feet from the curb and then the sidewalk. And that would bring it just about up to the curbing. It might leave that much.
The other thing that the sidewalk committee talked about in that when they were there is the sidewalk can go along, and then when it comes into that area there, 8 inches of it could be curved around and then continue on to the east. And that was discussed, and I think you could get a better feel for that. Where did the stakes come from that are there?
Chad, myself, and Dan went up and took some measurements on the big tree ring,
Okay,
because that's the one that's actually the closest to the curb. Excuse me. And we set, I believe the stake is set for the 5 foot offset. And so that one's pretty close to the tree. But if we move it back, of course, that would get an extra foot.
okay.
So, but,
And then if the roots are there, you could do the 8-inch radius in that, or just around that spot of the tree, and still maintain the integrity of the sidewalk.
I believe at 3.5 feet is what we would have to have to make, so we wouldn't be getting into the existing curbing that he has with that radius.
You're talking on the south side of the sidewalk edge or the north side?
Yep, south side.
Okay,
You
Okay.
get 3.5 feet for the, off of the back of the curb, and then with that radius, that would give you.
And what
that
they're,
distance.
may I show?
yes, absolutely, absolutely.
What they're describing is that if this was 3.5 feet from the back of the curb, they could narrow up the sidewalk, because this is 4 foot 8 inches. They could narrow it up a little bit down to 4 feet, and then that would,
That's fine.
you wouldn't get.
As it passes your landscaping and that.
Yeah, if you leave the curbing alone and you have to be right up to it, I don't have a problem with that. I just don't want to tear out all that curbing.
And the tree.
Yeah, no, and the intent is not to disturb the tree.
No, and we also understand that when we come from our neighbors to the east, his is way back, probably 12 feet.
Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to come through there and angle it, and I guess he has it drawn here.
Yeah,
We
and,
don't have a problem with any of that.
uh-huh,
Even over there where this comes through, we talked about that pedestal.
Yep.
I think you're gonna have to move that probably.
If we were looking at it, I know Dan might be able to get by.
Dan and I took a little time to measure it out one day here. He snuck back up and he called me and he said, no, we don't need to move it actually.
It'll
It's
be
going to be
Wow.
okay. Just barely. We're gonna squeak
Close,
it.
yeah.
Because I said even that tree, that red tree that's there, if that was a problem, they can take it out. I
Right.
don't care.
The,
But the main thing is this landscaping.
mhm.
If we can do it like that, we certainly don't have a problem with that.
the committee's,
I realize it don't really fit into
Mhm.
the program that you have set, but if you go up there and look at it, there's plenty of green grass to have a sidewalk down through it.
Yeah, and every member of the committee had made the trip there before, each of these meetings, and so,
And I'm here to tell you, we will clean our sidewalk off. We don't care if the guys put it on there. We don't care about that.
Well, I
You know,
kind of
we-
told Chad when he was there, he said, well, part of it, he said, is back, so he said, you don't get snow on there. Well, our sidewalk to the west, they always get snow on it.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
We'll clean it off.
so Brian,
Appreciate that.
Chad, and that, you guys have an understanding on how that can be worked out, and.
you know what, we talked about at the committee, 3.5
Yes.
feet would allow them to get by with that. The committee requested 4.
Right.
So but you don't have to accept their recommendation, you can you can back it down to 3.5 if that's what the commission seems appropriate.
Well,
Then that would
and-
not disturb
and
their
if the
rate.
sidewalk went along at 4 and then just made that little curvature around and came back to the 4, you know, I think that was, you know, something that, you know,
That's another alternative we didn't talk about was setting,
Well-
then it would curve just for that small stretch. You could do
Just-
that too.
yeah, just for that little bit there, you know. Because that's been done in other areas, like on 9th Street, and that, you know, so that trees and that were preserved.
In that case, it would maintain the sidewalk committee's recommendation. If you
It would
kept at
maintain 4 feet,
and then curve it
except for the
around.
little curvature coming around.
You could do that. They
So-
didn't make that part of theirs. They were anticipating cutting the edge, but I think maybe a middle ground could be, you could, you know, could move it around there like that.
4 foot, man.
It'd be 4 foot back, and then as you come to the tree, it'll just kind of come up to the 3.5 and then come back to 4.
You understand that?
Just on the one side, correct, to narrow it down to the 4 foot.
Well, the whole thing would be-
The whole thing would be 4. And then as you come to that tree, it would curve around, move to 3.5 really.
Just,
Follow standard ADA.
Yeah.
No problem.
okay?
Move to 3.5 on the inside. to the
I
curb.
think they'll be okay. I think they'll all be okay.
I think the other two look good, so.
Okay.
You good?
So with that as an understanding, could we have that put into a motion in that to make a modification to the recommendation of the sidewalk committee that it be 4 feet, except it would arch around the tree where necessary to no less than 3.5 feet.
Yeah.
Just in the one spot by the middle tree?
Correct.
By the middle tree, it seems to be the one that's the issue.
Is that your understanding? I just want to make sure that, you know. that we-
Okay. Okay. And Mr. Corbin, you were at the meeting. Do you have any other questions or comments?
What year did you put the little circles around the trees?
3 years ago.
Did you hear three?
Did you think about putting sidewalk in then?
No.
We did,
We
it's
knew
already-
we'd have to eventually, because that was your program, but no, we did not.
Okay.
Because you could have done that.
So,
All right, we can make that work.
Actually,
Okay.
I had those around the tree with regular landscape things probably for 6 years.
Okay.
I just put the curb in 3 years.
Are we good with this, with you guys? Is this?
Yes, I think this would be good. It's kind
Okay.
of a middle ground that you wouldn't have to cut it. It's only moving closer for a small,
small portion.
Correct.
you know, and it's mostly consistent with the sidewalk committee's recommendation.
Okay, if that's okay, then I'll move that as explained by the mayor.
Yes, and I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you. So, number 5, bid number 850, review and award bid for the restricted use site.
1 second.
I'm
we got
sorry.
one
There's
more.
another appeal we probably should
One
talk
other
about.
one.
Oh, you have another one that, okay.
Thank you, Chad.
Any questions, just let me know.
You want one, Jim?
The other appeal, again, from the minutes, if I can take that, before I go into it, the applicant was the contractor. He was made aware of the recommendation from the sidewalk committee last Thursday. And I explained that I would recommend that he come to the meeting or talk to his client to come to the meeting to talk about it as well. But then just going into it, the committee discussed the variance appeal submitted by Jeremiah Jordahl on behalf of Jamie Smith of 610 Northeast 7th Street, seeking to install sidewalk at 3.5 feet from the back of the curb and gutter. City ordinance and resolution number 2684 establishes a 5 feet as a minimum unless the city commission finds an extraordinary hardship is created. In the event extraordinary hardship is created, the city commission may waive any and all requirements so substantial justice may be done and the public interest protected. After much discussion, and since no trees will be removed or disturbed, Knapp made a motion that the committee recommend to the city commission that the above referenced variance for any setback less than 5 feet from the back of curb be denied. Seconded by Wiedemann, motion carried unanimously.
And then just a little addition to this and that. That would not get into the hedge, but it would require the trimming of the hedge to make it more flat on one side. The contractor's concern at that particular point was whether or not he had enough room on the back side of the sidewalk, between the sidewalk edge and the hedge, to put in his forms and have someone on the back side to, do the handwork and that to finish it off. The sidewalk could be put in at the proper 5-foot distance and still not affect the stalk or the roots of the hedge. I believe, Chad, you and I were both out there and met with them later on and stated that the commission or the committee had said, that the sidewalk to go in at the 5-foot distance, and the contractor and the property owner at that point in time were going to decide whether to trim the hedge back or whether to remove the hedge. And that was the last that I've heard.
I've not heard from the contractor since I had talked to him on Thursday evening, and I haven't heard from the landowner.
I make
Okay.
a motion, we continue with the recommendation of the committee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Those are the only two on that, Chad?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then we're ready to move on to bid number 850. Review and award the bid for the restricted use site. And Fred, would you like to address that?
Sure. I went up to Brookings last week, Thursday, I believe, Chad and I, and for the restricted use bid opening at Silk Design, Inc. was the engineers that actually put this together for us. Received 9 bids. I think the high was $186,799, and the low was $64,115.25. In the packet, you'll see a letter of recommendation from our engineer that put this together, recommending the low bid be given to Brown's Construction in the amount of $64,115.25. I would also concur with that. We had put so there's $60,500 in the cell construction in a reserve, and we had designated another 40, actually about another 72 plus toward this project. So we're very, very pleased to see that the numbers came in this low. So with that, I think we got a bargain on the deal, and would recommend that we go with Rounds Construction.
Okay. Questions, comments?
I'll make a motion that we accept the bid from Rounds Construction Company in the amount of $64,115.25 for bid number 850 for the restricted use site.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bid number 852. Declare as surplus property, appoint appraisers, and set a bid date for fitness equipment. And on this, Chad,
Me,
who
I'll
wants,
take it quick.
Jen, you want to take that one? Okay, go for it.
You probably will remember we did this once before back in April or May. Surplus equipment from the center. At that time, we did not get any bids on that equipment. They have since regrouped, moving this equipment around a little bit. Some's gonna go upstairs, some's gonna go other places. They now have a new list. If we would please declare it as surplus, go through the process. And we do anticipate the vendor who we are purchasing the new equipment from in the very near future will bid on this at the appraised value. So we just have to go through the process.
Okay.
So what date?
There is a date. 10th of August, please, 10:30 a.m.
I'll make a motion, we approve bid number 852, declaring as surplus property, appoint for fitness equipment, and appoint the appraisers myself, Aaron Walters and Chad Combs. Set the bid date for August 10th at 10:30 a.m.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 7, authorize use of the water distribution reserve for a portable water circulation equipment. And Fred, I'm going to ask you to address this one.
Yes, sir, thank you. That's potable water circulation. Actually, it's aerator for the older water tank that we have on the north end of town. We've looked at this for quite a long time. It's kind of set in our schedule as far as improvements to the aesthetics of the water, plus it also comes into play as far as splitting or adding the other pressure zone that we plan on doing here later this year. The main reason is to add this aerator is actually to keep the water fresher. We're getting some stagnation or stratification in that tank where the water's not turning over like it should. It plays hard on our annual tests that we have to do for THM's trihalomethanes, and we've had some close calls as far as actually getting to that break point where we've gone over the limit. So that's actually what we're having is that tank's cooking more organics, so it makes it real hard for us to make compliance with our water system, especially that one particular test. So this should help alleviate that. It'll also help alleviate freezing. Once we split the pressure zones, the plan is to actually leave both towers in service all year long, and we'll start that this winter. Normally we take that tower out of service about the 1st of October every year, which depletes our fire protection. So this way we can actually leave another 450,000 gallons in service for fire protection at that point. Currently, the Water Distribution Reserve has $525,000 in it. I would ask that be approved to use up to $25,000 to purchase this equipment. The equipment alone is pretty close to $20,000, and the additional money is to be used to do some changes down in the vault below that tower. As we go to split these zones, there's a couple pieces of equipment in there that we don't need. We need to repipe that down in that vault, so that should cover all our expenses to make this happen. And then later this fall, we'll get the zone split, get this equipment in there. There's about a 4 to 8 week lead time on getting that. That's why we're kind of putting it this time, so we can have it in play and get everything going. This all leads up to us actually receiving water from Big Sioux on a wheeling option. We anticipate that in June at the latest. So we'll have to switch over to ammonia after the first of the year, but we want to make this change in the system and the operation of the system first, and then we'll go into the ammonia after the first of the year. We'll make that change too, and just ease right into the process. So when we do receive water, we're all ready to go.
And just a clarification, and that's the reason that we're switching to ammonia, and that is because Big Sioux and Lewis and Clark and the others use it, and we need to have our water compatible with their processes.
Yep.
When those two mix together.
Right, the water has to be blended, so the only way to do that is to make our water exactly like theirs, and then we'll match everything up at that point. Okay.
We're really not switching to ammonia, we're adding ammonia.
Adding.
Chlorine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Fred, you referred to this as an aerator, isn't it a water mixer?
It's
I was just reading the project description.
Well, it's more of a mixer. Aerator's maybe not the right word for that, but it's what they call a grid bee. Just basically causes the tank to actually circulate is what we're trying to do. Not an aerator. You're right.
Sorry, not being nitpicky, but well, maybe I am, so.
He's shaking his head, yes.
I'm thinking maybe so, but okay. You're all right.
Can live with
I
that.
think it's going to be a good piece of equipment. It'll keep our water fresh in the tank in the summer. In the winter, it'll help keep ice from building up. So it'll help protect that coating in that old tank.
Yep.
So we don't have a popsicle on the west side of town.
Right.
Is that a motion, Mr. Corbin?
Yes.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Consider floodplain analysis proposal from SEH for the Southwest 4th Street and Union Avenue. Chad, would you want to address that?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Your Honor. The proposal is to develop a floodplain analysis. This area is in the floodway, and if there's any development to happen in that area, there needs to be a no-rise certificate provided. The mayor had been talking to me recently about trying to move forward with that. There was a reserve, I believe, created maybe around 15 years ago, 10 to 15 years ago, Southwest 4th and Union area that was intended for development of some sort of park facility there. And so trying to move forward with that has been the discussion that the mayor and I have had recently, looking at different options. So whether this is used for a ball field, the goal or the discussion recommended initially by the park board, who took this up last week, was to recommend this approval of this work for some ball fields. However, if the ball fields don't work, if the hydraulic modeling and such don't show that it meets the standard, it can still be used as soccer fields, basically. The idea is that, so this effort wouldn't be wasted, but we need to spend this money essentially to even find out if this can be developed, flattened out, and have the ground leveled and so on to support this as a park use.
And it has to be certified by a,
Yes, right.
I don't know the proper term,
There's a
hydraulic engineer?
in-
Right.
In a pretty particular process, following FEMA standards and so on, that needs to be implemented for doing this. I did hand out included in the agenda packet is a letter from SEH which goes through this process of what they're recommending. Also, I handed out to the commission an additional document that's an agreement for the professional services, which basically incorporates said letter as the scope of work with a few clarifications, nothing added or deleted from the requirements or the items in the letter. It just kind of clarifies scheduling, what the deliverables are for the city of Madison, and what we expect from them to get this project going. Yeah, and I can give more detail if you want, or I can just kind of stop there.
Okay.
That's a lot of money for a small piece of property. Is this something that, I mean, can they do other floodplain things and, throughout the city as well? I mean, that's one small little area, so.
Yeah.
Actually, it's large enough for 2 softball diamonds
Well-
and a soccer field. But
And-
the question is can it be used for it?
Yeah, and go ahead, Corbin.
Do we need 2 more?
I was just going there. My inbox is not getting filled with people saying, "Hey, we need more baseball fields in Madison."
Since I've been mayor, and that the question has been asked, and that what we can do to improve the Thuy and complex down there, because the one field that the men play on is the one that's closest to the mobile home court, and as you know, we've spent money down there to try to mitigate the damage done to the mobile homes by the home runs, and we have had teams in that have decided that with the new rules and regulations of, is it 1 home run hit or something per inning? I can't remember exactly how it goes, that they would rather play in some other towns. So it's come from the park board in that, do we look into land we already have, or do we look at trying to buy land outside the city and construct something totally new? And since this is a large enough area, and is attached basically to a complex where we already have concessions, restrooms, the ability to expand the parking lot, it's an area in that would be the cheapest to the city to add to the complex at the cheapest dollar if we can get the surveyor to say that it can be used for that type of an event. And Sioux Falls and other towns in that, they're putting the recreation facilities and that in their floodways. So the question is can Madison do that as well?
I think Mr. Corbin and Mr. Wallner's concern is, are we hearing, and I think this would be, if the stars all aligned, this would be the best bang for a dollar, so to speak. We have the property, it's within the adjacent playing fields. So but you're wondering, are we hearing a demand for this?
Correct. That's That's
Yeah.
one of my
And do we want to
questions,
look
along
at, do we
with
want to see if
Commissioner
there's a
Corbin.
demand first before we proceed with the study?
Yeah,
Is that what you're
and,
asking, Mike?
I'm asking that, and I'm also asking if maybe that area is better suited for some other recreation. Maybe it's not ball fields. Maybe it's something else. And the other part of that is, does that fit into the Parks Department grand scale or future planning of where they're going with the whole parks? And you know, so that's where I'm at, and I guess I myself, I haven't heard that, and so maybe I'm just haven't really looked at our, you know, the City of Madison master plan, and I'm thinking of that because, you know, we've talked about using some multi-use trails to connect everything, and I could see a multi-use trail connecting back over to Thuy and all of that, but I just want to make sure we're being prudent and going forward with this. And I don't know, maybe we just delay this for a little bit until we can kind of get some more information.
Well, this has been going on since I've been mayor,
Dale
just a
had-
minute. And the money that was set aside was to determine, and nothing has been materialized. And like you said, maybe it can be used for something else. This same study has to be done to
Sure.
find out if we can use it for
I understand.
anything.
I understand that.
Okay, Bob?
Could we move them over into diamond number 2, where when they hit the home run over the left field fence, instead of hitting a trailer, they'll go to the ball go in the creek?
And they've been doing some of that, but part of the issue is too, and that the request from the park board and from citizens, and I have a letter in my office, is for expansion to have the ability to handle more teams in town. And the reason, you know, it was discussed, you know, maybe we can attach the men's to another one of the fields and that, you know, use some of them up by Bachman Blotti. But down here, alcohol is served, and they don't want to commingle it with where the kids play.
You're gonna look at probably, I talked to the baseball people that built a new field out at Bachman Blotti. Kevin Layton said that they got over $100,000 in dugouts, fence, lights, everything else. You take that times 2, where's our money gonna come? Our sales tax is down. We don't have much money to just go out and throw it in the wind and let it blow away.
And nothing is being said that anything's going to happen in 2017, 18, 19, or 20. The study is being done to find out if that land can be used at all.
I'd rather see it be used for soccer, make another couple soccer fields.
And that-
But even
that's-
if we-
that's a
even
very
if we
good
did that, Bob,
possibility.
We still have to do the study, okay?
We still have to do the
I mean,
study.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Yep. We still have to do the study to get FEMA's approval to use it for anything. And currently, all we're doing is mowing it.
I guess you mentioned something a minute ago, we talked about 2 new ball fields, but you know, what age group do we plan on using these ball fields? You know?
This area down here is adults,
Right, and that these would be used by adults, right?
yes.
Just
Or, you know,
clarification.
yeah. And the other part of it is that nearby is the infrastructure, you know, as I mentioned before. We also have a parking lot down there that we could expand on the current property that's owned by the city that's part of it. So, but the question is can it be used for anything? And that's what this study is going to give the answer to.
Maybe one thing I can say too to help add some clarity. Task 1, the contractor has to check in at each task. Task 1 is estimated to be about $4,500, and that one would be some initial lower cost analysis that would just say if this can even be done, if the grading will work to allow those standards to be met. If they do that initial work, we'll stop, and they say, no, it won't work. We
Then we're
can't
done
do it.
right there.
We'll stop right there. Now, task 2 gets to a little bit more detailed. Say they do the task 1, it looks like, okay, looks like it's looking positive. They'll do some topography survey, some legal boundary survey to determine among other things, the path, the access point to the parking lot, to determine if there's space there and so on, to get that done. Because then the surveyor basically has to come out and do that. And so that would be the next step. So, and they'll check in with us at each of these tasks. And then finally, task 3 would be creating grading plans, because any grading plans that would have, and this is grading only, this isn't the design of dugouts and fences and concession stands and such like that. This is just for the grading portion, because that's still also, if we get the blessing, so to speak, from FEMA, all that has to be constructed according to that model, to how we say, you know, the ground can be graded such that it will carry this flow.
So we have
but
to-
we have to verify that it has to be developed that way. We can't deviate from that.
So we'd have to know whether we were doing soccer fields, baseball fields.
And we could at those check-in
BMX bike
points.
tracks, you know, ice skating rink, whatever.
Yep. You'd check in at those points and say stop, or maybe, you know, we revising, whether it's coordinating with the
tennis
park
courts.
board or whomever, you know, who wants to do that. And of course, you guys have been having the discussion about budgets, and, you know, we've asked them to give us cost estimates for both the grading plan, and then should it be proposed to be a ball field, you know, the fences and concession stand, whatever else is there, you know, it's up to us. We tell them what to put into it. And that would be, they'll give us estimates for that, so that's budgeted, if you wanna budget for it all, or do it in 5 years, or whatever you all wanna do.
Well, I mean, I'm all for additional recreation and additional parks, anything to get people outside, enjoy the community and all of that. The 24,000 seems like an awful lot, and that's why I would ask that, you know, perhaps that they could go and do other parts of our town as well, other parts of our flood buyouts, and see if we can do other things there included in that 24,000. If that answer is just a direct no, then it's a direct no. Now, having heard you say that we could stop them after task 1, I'm willing, I guess my threshold would be, you know, the 4,000 or 4,500, 5,000, for them to just give us a quick yes or no. I'd be a little leery about them getting clear into task 3 and start talking about grading and everything else when we don't have $200,000 to put in baseball fields and, you know, at this point. And so what I'm saying is, can we do it where task 3 is 2020 or 2019?
I think we could, I mean, you could just
It-
revise the
I
agreement,
don't-
revisit it, revise the agreement, and say,
Or
you know, that,
how can we just get into just task 1? In other words, let's do a separate bid of just task 1 and then cut it off right there. Because otherwise, this thing's gonna be on your desk for 4 or 5 years, and I know how that goes. Things get lost, and, I mean, it's hard to track it when it's multiple years. I'm just asking, Kelly, other ideas?
I guess if they said yes, this looks like it's a go after the first task 1, I would think they would expect us to move on to task 2 if we sign an agreement with them.
we could stop, we have to give approval, you know, task 2,
Okay.
you know, task 3 is really the design service, that's the bulk of the cost, you know, it's $15,000, you know, because that's preparing plans and specifications and a bidding process and so on. You know, one thing they can do is put those plans on the shelf,
Yeah.
you know, whether they sit there for, a year or 5 years. Or you could just terminate at task 2 and say, hey, when we're ready, we'll come and talk to you about task
Yeah.
2, or excuse me, task 3. I would say at the minimum, you probably want to go through 1 and 2, just so you have.
Then at least you can find out if you can use it for something other than
Right.
just mowing it.
Right. Well, we got a lot
And,
more.
and that's what the park board is hoping, is to find out if it can be used for something.
I guess I agree with Commissioner Waldner. I'm all in favor of recreation and stuff, but it comes to a point. When can you afford it, and when do you have to call it quits? We've got We got plenty of ball fields around here that are not being used. Maybe we could put a fence a little higher up over there so it didn't hit the trailer houses.
We've done that.
We did that. We did that already.
We thought that was.
Anyway, it comes time, the affordability is what you have to look at.
Well, and we're not talking affordability now. You got to find out if you can do it, and then then down the, then you know you can plan for something in the future. Right now, the park board has no idea if they can even look to do anything because they don't know if they could do it. And that's basically what this will do, is say, can this be used for a park, and then it'll kind of specify what you can and can't do.
David,
Yes.
how do I make a motion that stops this thing after task 2?
Just that.
Just
one.
make your motion.
All right, there's my motion.
Task 1 and task 2.
I'll make a motion to consider the floodplain analysis proposal from SEH for Southwest 4th Street and Union Avenue through task 1. And after task 1, if they say yes, then through task 2.
Second.
Chad, did you have something you wanted to add?
I just wanted to say something before we move right into it.
Okay.
Do we need, David's looked at this agreement, I've talked to David about it. Do we proceed with this agreement knowing that it explicitly says in the scope of services that the client has to approve the particular Can we execute it as is, knowing that the motion, the ultimate approval given was only for task 1 and 2? Or do we have to go reapproach them about revising the letter and so on?
The fact that we have to give our approval, I'd be okay with it as is. I just want some clearer communication with SEH that that's how
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
this,
And-
that's what was approved.
Okay.
And then
But I don't
Yep.
think we have to redo the agreement because of that motion.
Okay.
If
And
they want
if-
to come back to us with something, say, well, they could do that.
Exactly. If they want to come back with another agreement, that's fine.
Yeah, and I would agree with that as well.
Yeah.
I don't think we have to, but if SEH feels better with another agreement, you and I will look at it.
Okay.
Just a couple of questions. Was this designated specifically for this property, this floodplain
The reserve.
analysis?
Yeah.
There wasn't other areas of floodplain?
No, it says, the
Just
reserve says
specific for-
Southeast 4th and
Specific to
Union.
the
Okay, all right, that's fine. I think there's 3 things.
Because that's a
Yeah.
huge, huge
It is,
area.
it is. And as you look at the properties that we have, it's probably for this hopeful project, or that we're considering, this probably the best piece that we have, for the property for that, in my analysis anyway, which is.
And the soccer program in Madison is growing,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so, if it can't be used for one thing, can it be used for another? And that's what this study is gonna say.
And then, I also, so that we know, we have some loyal folks out there who are putting gardens in, and that we are making provisions for gardens elsewhere if this becomes a reality, okay? Well, we're gonna locate gardens in our, right now we're talking about 2 other locations, I think, correct, Fred?
Yes, sir.
And as a result of that, no one's gonna be out there gardening that they, I mean.
Good
I just think that the public
Good
needs to know, because if I were one of those faithful out there who put my garden in, I'd want to know they're gonna take away my garden, and what's gonna happen. Well, be it known that we're making provisions for that now, okay? Because that's an important part of people's lives.
Absolutely.
It is.
Um,
And the gardens are not only a garden, it's a social
It is,
area,
clearly.
no question.
Yeah.
People get together and visit while
So
they're
who did
working
the
in the
second?
gardens.
Bob, we have a motion and a second.
Yes, we do. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. On number 9, authorize the use of the Park and Rec Southwest 4th Street and Union Reserve floodplain analysis proposal. And,
I'll make a motion to authorize use of Park Rec, Southwest 4th Street and Union Avenue Reserve floodplain analysis proposal.
Up to $9,000 will cover task 1 and task 2.
Up to $9,000.
Thank you.
Second.
okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Seeing no announcements, no executive session, Do we have a motion to adjourn from the commission meeting and move into a short budget meeting?
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I've just got a short presentation. Do we want to just jump right into it? No, you don't need to be there.